I don't know who needs to hear this, but there's fabric at home. I'm going to hold your hands when I say this. There is fabric at home. Hi, my name is Theodora, an NYC based fashion designer and garment creator specialized in creating garments to exact client specifications. So, I had a funeral to attend and I was informed last minute that the dress code is black and white. All I had was black. So I dug through my fabric stash and found that black and white fabric. As you can see, it's been in the stash for a while. There's a bit of yellowing, but who cares? And I found that lining piece that I'm cutting out of right now. It's actually taffeta lining, and the fabric I'm working with is cotton. So ideally, I would have liked to have cotton lining. I had to fight the urge to go buy cotton lining. Okay, if you're a creator of sorts and you use fabric, deep down, low key, we're all a little bit, fabric hoardy. And when we buy fabrics, we always buy them with the intent of creating things out of. This is actually a leftover fabric from a piece that I created for my aunt. I bought the fabric for her actually, so I ended up keeping the rest of it. And when you're working with a scant amount of fabric, in this case, I only had about 2 yards and a smidge and some pieces and cutoffs from the initial project. It's always wise to start your process on the lining piece. So I went ahead and cut out the pattern for the skirt piece, which is a slit. I'm making a caban slit, which is a traditional outfit we wear to funerals as Ghanaians. So once I cut out the slit piece out of the lining, I went ahead and cut it out of the fabric piece and actually shortened my normal slit length because I wanted to use the top part for the peplum. Do you guys remember that before we were all corset warriors, we used to be peplum warriors? Like, dude, we used to wear peplums to every event, dude. I still love peplums, so I still wear them. This is me doing fabric gymnastics, trying to figure out what goes with what, and finally resigning myself to thinking that, hey, let's just make it work. We don't have a lot of time anyway, so girl, just get a move on. So I cut out a basic bodice block out of the lining piece again, and finally decided on a neckline. I wanted to do some sort of boat neckline. And then while I was cutting and following my bliss, decided that, ooh, let's add a keyhole to it. Don't worry, it gets out of hand. You'll see. And if you've been sewing for a long time and you generally know what shape things have to be to give you certain desired effect, you know how to manipulate your fabric and get the most out of your fabric. I've been sewing for over a decade now. Wow, I feel old. I just a baby, I promise. Anyways, I went to the machine and started stitching up the pieces. So basically, if you're paying attention, you notice that as I was cutting, I was pinning. Okay, so as you're cutting, think about what you're going to be doing as you get to the machine and pin your fabrics together as you would need them to be when you get to the machine. So once I'm at the machine, I stitch and understitch as much as I can to do as much as I can before I have to get up and go to the ironing board to iron out the fabric, but do not skip ironing. Iron, iron, iron. And I went ahead and cut out some interfacing pieces for the bodice, the front and back bodice block, as well as the sleeve to give it some stability and strength. So remember when I said the keyholes get out of hand? How many do you count? We started off with one and now we have five. And because I was cutting out the initial pieces on crumpled fabric, I had to go back in and true out the fabrics, making sure that they match with the lining piece, cutting off any excesses and pinning them together and getting them ready for the serger. So this is the almighty peplum. Oh, I love this peplum piece. You'll see why. I run two running stitches at the top of the peplum piece and then basically tug on them to create this wonderful peplum. I really love that Jinyame border on the edge of this peplum. Honestly, I'm contemplating taking it off the resulting. You'll see. You'll see when I do the fitting later. I'm thinking of taking it off and maybe just creating a new top with it, like just taking like white cotton and doing a bodice block and then putting this in there like a spaghetti strap bodice and then putting this peplum. And I think that would be so cute. But I love this peplum. So once the peplum was done, I went in back at the machine and did the neckline. So basically, I was stitching the neckline at about an eighth of an inch because, dude, I had no seam allowance. All this is happening because I'm following my bliss. I did not account for this when I was pattern making. So basically, we're winging it. And yeah, so once I turned it in and out, went to the ironing board and pressed it off camera, but here is a little tip. Whenever you're adding a puff sleeve to a bodice block, you always have to reduce the shoulder by zero point 0.5 to 1 inch to ensure that the garment ends up sitting on your actual shoulder tip as opposed to dropping off your shoulder like a drop shoulder. It's not a drop shoulder. If you do not cut off that half an inch to 1 inch allowance at the shoulder, it will drop. You're welcome. Here I am again cutting off excesses because, like I said, we cut on crumple fabric. If you can iron your fabric beforehand. I didn't. So once I cut off the excesses, I brought it to the serger and cleaned off all these edges to make it nice and neat before attaching the sleeve. Because if you can see the sleeves over there, I've already serged around it. So yeah. If you're enjoying the video so far, kindly like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, thank you so much for watching. Because these keyholes are very random and a result of me following my bliss, I was thinking, let me add these beads in there and that would form a really wonderful design. As you can see, the sleeves are looking wonderful. I measured out the peplum length with the actual peplum, stitched it in, stitched the sleeve in, and we got a top. This is how it was looking. And again, press, press, press. So everything is laying nice and neat. Came to the skirt block. As you can see, the zipper is in. The back opening is finished and neatened. The sides have been neatened as well. Didn't do much of a waistband for this. It's basically a bias piece pressed and stitched over the waist of the skirt, and I went ahead and pinned it together and stitched in the seam allowance for the side. Didn't really film too much for the slit piece, but yeah. So this is me stitching in the beads as I intended. And I should say, you're going to see why later. I should have used beading thread, fish line thread, which is much stronger than sewing thread because when I went to try on the top again, once the beads were in, the beads ended up popping. Yes, because again, I should have known better. The actual design looked good off the body, but when it was on the body, it didn't work because again, I didn't plan for this. I was just cutting through the fabric, trying to create something. I was just playing around, to be honest. So I decided that because the openers were doing that lifting thing over there, again, this top is not closed in the back, but it was doing that lifting thing in the back, and I didn't like it. So I decided that instead of putting the beads over there, I was going to overlap the openings of the keyhole designs, and this is what the top looks like. I really love that peplum piece. I love the sleeve as well. So I went ahead and overlapped the keyhole design, and that helped to for the neckline to sit a lot better. I'm so glad I didn't go ahead to bead the entire thing. I would have been pissed. But everything came out looking nice and beautiful. I got a ton of compliments. The slit was sitting so beautiful on my body, but it was so tight. Getting into the car and getting out was a struggle, but hey, we do it for the fashion. Look at me. Thank you for watching.